All right, Debbie, I am so thrilled that you agreed to have this conversation with me today. So I just want to say thank you so much and welcome you to the podcast.
Well, thank
I'm
you
so
so much.
excited. Yes, so before we get into all the fun stuff that we're going to talk about, I just want to say that Debbie had some amazing jewelry, and I kind of ran into her in a roundabout way at was it like a community yard sale or something like that?
Well, it was supposed to be a vintage show, but it
A
ended up
vintage show.
like a swap meet. But yeah, there was, I met a lot of dealers that day, running through and looking for vintage. So it was
All right.
fun.
All right. Well, let's start with you introducing yourself and letting us know who you are, what you do, and your background as it relates to vintage jewelry.
Okay, my name is Debbie, and I have been doing vintage for decades, and I mean decades, starting from when I was a little girl with my grandmothers. And then when I moved back east, it was like late 70s, early 80s, exciting time, punk, hip hop, vintage. So it just took off. So I've been into vintage for probably nearly 50 years. And so I've had websites, I've had physical stores, which, like all of you know, after the 80s, the 90s, you couldn't give it away. And I had to close my stores. And I ended up getting rid of a lot of my inventory. And of course, here comes the internet, which I
Right.
should have held on to it. But I also went back to school. I got my degree in jewelry design. And I I just decided vintage is my true love. So collect. So I've had websites for probably over 20 years. And that's it. I just love it. I just keep collecting and I have just hundreds of pieces. And, you hold on to them for years and years and years. And then sometimes you let them go.
Yes. Now, when I saw your table at that show, I was just blown away by how beautiful and how stunning and how unique the pieces were. And when I grabbed your card, I saw that you sell mostly on Etsy. Is
Right.
that correct?
Yes, I've had my own websites, but now I've been really busy helping my son with his production company. And Etsy is just a really all in one. They take care of the taxes, customs. Yeah. And it's a nice website. They're pretty good about supporting the seller, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I've never sold on Etsy. I've sold on eBay, Poshmark, whatnot, and Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
So so getting the perspective from you about selling on Etsy is going to be something totally new to me because people have asked, is Etsy a good place? How hard is it to sell on there and all those types of things. So let's start with your experience with Etsy. Like, why did you choose Etsy over any other platform?
Well, I had already been selling on eBay and actually Ruby Lane.
Oh,
And
yes.
I found Ruby Lane to be um, difficult,
Yeah.
and a lot of the sellers were, I don't know, what's the word, catty. So I decided to go to Etsy, and yeah, I've never really had any problems with them. And it's nice; it's a nice layout, and like I said, the, depending on your pictures, and but one good thing about Etsy is you can keep your clientele from all over the world. Once they have find you there, they know you, they know your quality, and and I think it's a trusted website. I feel like it's not really geared towards vintage, but the people that do sell vintage do pretty well.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people go to Etsy for, like, handmade jewelry, and like you
Right,
said, they don't think about vintage jewelry pieces. So is
right.
it really competitive, do you think, to sell vintage jewelry on Etsy?
Um, I don't, you know what? That doesn't bother me. It's like I feel like, everybody does their own thing. They have their own aesthetic. They have their own clientele, and I just sell what I love, and what I'm attracted to. And like I said, there's no certain designers, because even the lower end designers, they have spectacular pieces. You know what I mean? It's not just like I go for what's going to make the most money. I go for like the wow factor, like, and condition. And
Yes,
also, a lot of jewelry doesn't hold up over time, like the metal, and
yeah.
it's sad. You wish you could get your hands on it when it was brand new. But so yeah, mine is mainly condition, and it's just something I have to have a connection with.
Are there
So,
any are there any particular brands that you prefer to sell over others?
you saw a lot of Celro. That's I When I first found that, I'm like, who is this? And then it was just like, I would have loved this man, you know. And
Yeah.
then, of course, Juliana, there's all the
Oh,
usual
yeah.
suspects, Shriner, but it's a fortune. And Alice Cavanis, Florenza.
Mhm.
Right now, we are in the middle of West Germany, just Shark Fest. It's like, how
Oh,
things
really?
come around in cycles.
Uh-huh.
So, in different countries, girls kind of rule what's popular. So, like in Asia, so right now they're buying up all the West Germany. Before this, they were buying up all the Juliana. So, and then even before, sadly, the war started, the Russian girls and Ukrainian girls love vintage. So it's just, it, it's it's a cycle, just like fashion. And so my son, he has a Oak Park Productions, but I also use the models to model my jewelry. So it's a new generation, young girls, and they're like, oh, I don't know. They put it on and they're like, oh my God, I'm so beautiful. And I'm like, yes, you are. And it's just like it just elevates your spirit.
Yes.
And so I've just turned on a new generation.
Yes, and it's interesting you say that, like, in other parts of the world, the young girls pretty much dictate the trends and what's
Yes.
popular and what is in demand. But I was talking with a friend not too long ago, and we were discussing how a lot of some of these companies overseas were buying up a lot of the vintage pieces because they want to make copycat pieces overseas so they can, mass produce them. And so a lot of people were worried that, you know, the market was just going to get flooded with all these, fake knockoff pieces. And I was like, yeah, that is a real possibility. So do you worry about counterfeit or fake pieces or things like
You're
that?
going to spot them, because let's face it, they had spectacular casters back then. In fact,
Mhm.
these companies were very tight lipped, they would not share. And so, for example, even Joan Rivers must have gotten her hands on some castings, because some of her jewelry mirrors exactly Florenza and different
Oh,
ones,
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
really, but you can tell. You just can tell that there's just something different. I I don't know. I've maybe been fooled a couple times, but that's because I bought online. But if you saw it in person, you'd be able to
You would
tell.
know.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yes, and I think that's something that comes with time as well, because the more you handle pieces, the more you look at pieces and you start to study and learn all the intricacies of how certain pieces are made or designed or styled. Yes, you really can. Even, I mean, I don't want to say I'm 100%, but sometimes I can tell even gold, you can look at it and you can
Mhm.
tell if it's fake or not.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot, but I don't know. I just you can tell a high end, high quality piece. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just pops out at you. You're like, who is it? And you might not know who it is. And then, like, for example, I found a couple pieces on Mercari, and it was like, oh, these are gorgeous. So I just hurried and bought them, and I had no idea who it was. And then it took me about a month of research, and it was Hinkle and Grosse for Dior. Absolutely
Really?
stunning high end pieces. Yeah. So, just keep your eyes open. They're out there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you recommend then someone learn some of these better pieces? Because that's one I had never heard of.
Oh, well, they're like Germany and, because Dior had a lot of people make their pieces, Kramer,
Mhm.
a lot
Okay.
of different, but ornate, of course. And just, you can just tell by like even the findings and just how it's made, the quality of the rhinestones, quality of the stones, you
Right.
know, the weight of it. So yeah, it's an adventure.
All right. So how did you start your journey of just learning about jewelry? Because I think that's the thing that overwhelms a lot of people, right? Like they say, "Oh my gosh, there's so much to learn." There's vintage, there's antique, there's modern,
Right.
there's all these, and then there's the different eras within jewelry. So how did you start learning and what would you recommend for someone who's just getting started learning?
Well, let's face it, the internet is
Yes.
tons of information. There's books and stuff like that, but I would say, just search and just if you can't find images, just like type in any random search terms. You know what I mean? Because, a lot of people don't know what they have. And so they'll just list it weirdly. And so I just use anything I can, and then all of a sudden there might be something that catches your eye, and you hurry go to that, and then it might lead you to somewhere else, and then all of a sudden, ta-da! There it is, and then there are a lot of reputable like vintage dealers that have been in business forever, and so a lot of them know, you know, they've been around probably longer than me, and they know. So yeah, and then I suppose you can, if you're in a group or something, you can reach out and say, has anyone seen this? Or do you know what this is? But more or less, you'll start to see a pattern,
Right.
of who it is. Because, like I said, the back is key. But, like, say, of any piece of jewelry, if it's unsigned, you can usually tell by the backs, the end little whatever findings or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start too, is just
Right.
online,
Yeah.
and now that we have Google Lens, you can take a photo of the piece and see if there's a match somewhere out there.
Right.
So we have all these modern modern tools that we didn't even have, 20 years ago. So, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So, going back to the Etsy thing, because I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on that. Can you take me through a like a tell me what your workflow looks like? Like, what does a typical day look like when you're listing pieces on Etsy or whatever your process is?
Well, first of all, pictures.
So
You
you're
want to
taking
try
your
and make that
photos.
the best that you can and
Mhm.
actually look like the item because you don't want people going, this doesn't even look like, the picture.
Right.
And then description. And I mean, I note if there is any sort of a defect, even if it's the smallest, I note it. There's always a note, like, whatever. And then it's easy. It's easy. So you load your pictures, you load your description, and then I think they give you something like 10 keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, say, for example, it's Napier. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because all the gold is all back in style, Anne Klein, Napier, Monet, all of that. So if you, in your keywords, say you say Napier, whatever it is, Napier bracelet, I would use other keywords too, Monet, Anne Klein, because the bottom line is somebody is just searching for that style. So
Right.
yeah, you don't have to exactly stick to what you're selling in just the search words. In your description, yes, you need to be specific. But yeah,
Do you think Etsy is a little bit more, I guess, user friendly compared to eBay or other platforms?
um, I would say tit for tat. It's like eBay's easy as well, and
Mm-hmm.
eBay has a good support system as far as protecting the seller. Um, Etsy, there's just been a few things where I don't think they want to lose a sale, period, no matter what. So a lot of
Right.
times they'll go for you and the buyer. And that's very rare. I've hardly had it was mainly during COVID when packages weren't getting delivered and stuff like that. But I just like it. I like the way the pictures look. I just think it's a good place. Like I said, they cover you know, your taxes are already laid out for you. The VAT's paid wherever you send it to. And yeah, and you can buy your labels right on there. They can take the money right out of, what you just made. So
Right.
yeah, so I think it's good.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've heard people complain about Etsy are like the fees, but you're going to have to pay fees no matter where you sell.
Right. Even if
And
you have
then
your own website, it's costing you.
exactly, exactly.
Exactly.
So, but the other thing, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard people say something about Etsy kind of forces the sellers to advertise or offer free shipping or something like that.
Well, maybe, but you don't have
You
to.
don't have to, right?
No, no. Well, I've been doing free shipping just
Mhm.
because, but you don't have to, and you would have to pretty much sign up for advertising. Sure, it's like any other website. They want to get their money.
Right. Okay, okay. Well, that's good, that's good. So if someone is thinking about Etsy, then they probably just need to try it and see if it's gonna work for them and their business,
And
because
it,
that's how a lot of these platforms are. You really need to try them for yourself.
and then, like I said, once you've been doing it for a while, you'll get a clientele that knows you, knows your
Right.
stuff, and I like Etsy too because I like to buy stuff on there, that isn't vintage, it's fun.
Right. Yes, yes. All right. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Like I said, I've never sold on Etsy. But yeah, building up a very loyal clientele or buyer base is extremely important because we all know how difficult it is, to get customers nowadays because buyers have so many options,
Right.
as it relates to shopping for vintage jewelry now. So, okay, so let's talk about um, What are some of your favorite vintage brands, or what are some things that you or your store or your shop is really known for? Because you said you have a loyal following, so I'm going to guess that people know what you sell and what they're looking for, they can find it with you.
Well, pretty much Juliana, and
Juliana.
right, Selro for sure.
Mhm.
And, like a little bit of everything, Florenza, West Germany, um, Alice Cavanis. I love her. And just like I said, anything high end, mega bling, colorful, chunky, because like a lot of the young kids, they're afraid of that jewelry,
Right.
because it's just too much. It's not the style. But if
Yeah,
you have
it takes a
all the
big
time style,
personality to be able to wear it too.
right, or like I sold for the Lone Ranger the movie, I sold several Victorian revival bracelets to them.
Wow.
And so it's just like different actors and a lot of stage performers. And actually, brooches are like people that are in companies high up, education, everybody, it's just whatever their aesthetic is, but then they know that they can find like a quality piece through me. And, they can always just ask questions. I can send more pictures, but I've never had a problem. I actually had a jewelry designer from Dubai buy one of my big, chunky, long pendants that had just ornate stuff hanging down. So he could just make a mold out of it and make it out of real gold and real jewels. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, he's like, I've never seen this. And he goes, I have to buy it just so I can copy it and make it the real thing.
Oh my
So, pretty
gosh.
cool.
That is cool. That is cool. So, let's talk about then, like, I guess how you showcase your pieces. Because I know I saw you at the vintage jewelry show, but do you ever do any kind of like pop up shops or participate in jewelry shows or anything like that?
I used to do a lot more. I just been busy. Yeah, I like the live shows because people
Mhm.
can actually see the quality and what it looks like and if it's for them. But yeah, the reason I signed up for this last one because they were like, oh, vintage show. So I thought maybe it's like that one in Summerlin, but only one day ideal.
Right.
No. But even that one is, there's a lot of vintage inspired pieces. It's not actual vintage. You need to get together with all the vintage girls. We need to do a real show, a real
Yes.
vintage show, only old stuff.
Yes. Yes. I'll be there.
Yes.
All right. So now let's talk about, I guess, finding these pieces. Now, I know you don't have to tell me, exactly where you find stuff, but if someone is learning and they're trying to get into this and they're trying to find the good stuff, um, what would you advise for them?
Well, you can, you know, it's there's auctions,
Mhm.
sometimes you get lucky at auctions, other times a lot
Yeah.
of people know what things are worth, but and if you're willing to trek out to all the yard sales or, you know, I would just say online and then also put the word out there. Say,
Yeah.
'cause if you're working with someone and they're like, oh, my mom has some of that stuff, or I have my grandma's stuff. And you're like, well, hook me up, let's see. Because a lot of
Yes.
times they don't realize it's not their aesthetic, you
Mhm.
know, and they're like, what am I going to do with this? So, yeah, I would just say anywhere, just keep your eyes open. Every now and then I'll go to California and we'll do like the big acres shows where you're just walking, kind of like you did when you were speed walking around it's like that's how I am. like we know what we're looking for, and we're just scanning the tables as we're walking by.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Now, have you sold at any antique malls? Because I used to sell at Antique Mall of America here in Las Vegas. And I did really well over there. My problem was that I could not keep enough stuff in stock, right?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that place well. I actually did. There's a place up in Boulder City, where
Mhm.
I used to have my vintage shop back like in 1990, 91, but it's called like Goat Feathers. I did that place for about a month. But again, when you're in a shop that has everything, not just vintage,
Mhm.
it's, I don't know. Yeah, I know. I love going to the Mall of America and stuff like that. I just haven't been to those places in a long time.
But would you consider selling your jewelry there or
Well,
no?
one thing is I worry about my high end jewelry being like stolen or broken. And so,
Yeah. Yeah, I had a
it's
glass case, so luckily
right.
that wasn't an issue.
Right. So that's just it. It's like, did you have to work there like one day a week or something?
Well, they said that, but I never did.
Okay.
Because because I just thought it would be a little unrealistic. I have a little tiny
Right.
7-foot tall glass case, and then there's dealers who have a 10 by 10 booth or a 10 by
Right.
20 booth.
Were you in
So
the very far back on that second level?
I wasn't on there, but I was
Okay.
in the row right before you go up to the 2nd
Okay.
floor. So I
Well,
said, it doesn't make sense for me to come in here and work when I don't even occupy the same amount of space as some of these other people do.
right. Well, and that's just it. And I don't know. I just have trust issues with
Yeah.
people handling it. And, because let's face it, a lot of these things are like 1930s, 1940s, 50s, 60s. They don't realize this is old. If you drop it, you bust some of those stones, they're irreplaceable.
Right.
So I don't know. I've thought about it. I've thought about doing my own shop because I'm out in Henderson, and Water Street is kind of taking off now. But again, we would have to work it.
Right, right.
Right.
I've thought about that too. I've thought about having my own store because I love jewelry, but I also love like crystals and gemstones and mineral
Right.
specimens and all that stuff. And I thought about doing my own store, but then I said, well, I would have to probably work in it and I'd have to work more than what I'm already doing because I would feel like I would need to be there. I would need to make sure everything's good and so
We have to get like-minded people that
yes,
we would
yes.
work together and trust. And yeah, I actually have several friends that are big into antiques and stuff like that, and they could cover that end.
Yeah, well, if you ever do open up a shop, Debbie, I will come shopping. I will definitely come shopping because I've seen your stuff and it's absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's talk about because you mentioned like the careful handling of these pieces. So what tips or advice can you give for us to really take care of some of these older, more delicate jewelry pieces?
Well, first of all, one thing I would tell everyone is if you do buy online, make a point of whoever you buy from, say, please, please, please wrap it so tightly in bubble wrap, so it doesn't bang around. Because that's one thing is some people just throw it in a box and you open it up and there's a bunch of pieces. So I don't know. I take great care with even sometimes cleaning. And then I've been known to switch out a rhinestone or two, if something's missing something, you know,
Mhm.
but I never changed the whole thing. I just, I don't like selling anything that's incomplete or, you know,
Right.
so yeah. So that's why, like I say, I'd love to just find it all brand new. I'd like to go back in time and just buy it all up, but that won't happen.
Yeah, so cuz you know a lot about the history of jewelry, and I think part of, understanding how to care for a piece is knowing the history of it, how long ago it was made, how it was made, the tools used to make the piece, because some of those tools, they don't have them anymore, right? So I think the more knowledgeable you are, the more you understand why certain things matter, and why you need to handle things the way you do, just because it's like literally holding pieces of history in your hand.
Works of art, literal,
Yes.
like could be
Yes.
in a museum. I actually was watching Antiques Roadshow and they had some several pieces on there and they didn't know what they were. And I'm like, I know, you know. So it's just like, they were just saying, look at this work of art. And it was a several piece, like the Asian faces. So, hey, Jeff, have you seen those bracelets before?
I think I have.
They're gorgeous and
Yes, as a
highly
matter of fact, I think I
spoken.
just saw one the other day,
Yeah.
now that you're saying that.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's just fun.
Yeah, I think you would be an excellent teacher. Like if you taught a class on vintage jewelry or antique jewelry, I think you would be really well at that, or do really well at that, just because, I mean, just because I talk to people who like jewelry, but they just like it because it's pretty.
Right.
Right? Right? They don't understand, the background or the
It's
backstory, or
history. Right.
yes, yes. So,
And how it can really transform an outfit. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
like even brooches. It's funny because the younger generation, they're like, I would never wear one of those. But then yet we'll do a photo shoot and I'll have one on and they're like, oh my God, this is fabulous. And I'm like, yeah. So it's just takes a little bit of convincing. And then once they have it on, it's like they feel just, wonderful and beautiful and glamorous.
Yes, and, I know for me too, like, whenever I throw on some jewelry, even if it's just earrings, I just feel so much more put together,
Right.
like,
And you get a million compliments,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and people appreciate,
Right.
they appreciate that you took the time to, fix yourself up or wear something that's interesting or pretty or
Right.
sparkly
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Okay, so what do you think, because we're talking about styling and trends and all that stuff. What do you think is gonna be really big as it relates to jewelry, trends, popularity? Like, have you seen anything that you've noticed that people are really, like, asking a lot, asking for more now, or asking a lot about?
Oh, a lot of the tassel necklaces, like the Monet, the Demita, the double tassel lariats.
Oh, yeah.
Hot, so hot. All the tassel necklaces are very hot again. And let's face it, it's a more casual atmosphere. So we're still doing like boho, 70s, maybe
Mm,
some 80s, so it's like I said, it's a cycle, just like normal fashion. Because you see in the stores, and I see as an older person, like, oh my God, I had that in the 70s. You know what I mean? You see exactly the same things. It's just rehashed again. So, but I see us kind of stepping away from the glamour a little because people, number one, we're in a bad economy now. So that
right.
has affected, a lot of the business because what are we going to do? Are we going to eat or buy a rhinestone brooch?
Mhm.
So once things pick up, and they will, um, it's a cycle, and again, it will take those trendsetters out there whoever you follow that says, look at me, I'm wearing a gown and black gloves and whatever and rhinestones. And there you go. We're off to the races again. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just keeps, but right now I would say it's more simplistic. It's pendants, um, except for, the people that are like bold and are like, no, I'm going for it. And they get those large pieces, so.
Yes, and have you noticed that a lot more men are wearing jewelry now, like traditional pieces that were only considered for women, but a
Right.
lot of men are wearing brooches, um, pearls, things that we haven't really seen.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's a new world, and anything goes. Anything goes. So whatever. It's just
Very true.
fashion wise, you can wear just about anything, and there is no set style, I don't think anymore. Do you? There's not.
Not really, because, it seems like there's so much, like it's not just for women or not just for men. It's almost like neutral,
Right,
like this is a piece that could be worn by a man, a woman, or whatever, and it looks good no matter what. It's and I think too, it's all about the individual and
right,
what they're trying, like their style or their energy or what their preference is. So
right. And they can accessorize it however they want,
exactly,
you know.
exactly. So okay, so let's talk about like how you store and organize jewelry, because I know that's always a very tricky thing for a lot of us, because we have, tons of pieces in our inventory and we want to keep them nice, we want to keep them safe. So what are some I guess ideas or things you can share about how you organize and store your jewelry inventory?
I box every piece separately, and I wrap it
Okay.
all in like foam first and then bubble wrap. So it's like everything's already boxed up because, like I said, I don't want it banging around. And then I have it like, in whatever section, you know, for, like the Selro section, the Juliana section. I have them all ready
Okay.
to go. Like once I've had them cleaned or whatever, everything looks perfect and they're ready to roll. I just box them up because I don't want anything to happen to them.
Of
Yeah,
course, of course. Now, I don't know, like approximately how many pieces do you have in your inventory? Because I know some of us have thousands. And if
right.
you have thousands of jewelry pieces in boxes, that would take up a ton of space.
It does. It takes up
So,
half of them at least.
oh, okay.
But
Okay.
but well, one good thing is it is, all together. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I I just didn't wanna, cut you off if you
Right.
were in the middle of saying something, but yeah, because I remember when I had at my peak, at when I had all my stuff on eBay, I had 3,000, jewelry pieces, and so
Wow.
I had to put them in little plastic bags, and then I had a SKU number on each bag, but of course, some of my better pieces, I would store those separately, like you said, in a box or in a velvet bag, depending on what it was. Um, and I know that's a challenge for a lot of people, because people are worried about losing a piece or something getting misfiled or misplaced or whatever. So yeah, it can be tricky if, once you get up into even a couple hundred jewelry pieces, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
even that can be a challenge.
Well, to me, it's the pictures take forever, and then you got to edit and everything like that. So it is. You have to be dedicated if you want to do this.
Mhm.
You know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. Okay, so you also mentioned a little bit about cleaning the pieces. What tips and advice can you give us on cleaning some of these higher end, older
Well, you
jewelry
have to be
pieces.
careful because water under rhinestones will just ruin them, you know.
Yes.
And but one of the secrets of cleaning like gold, and even if you need to clean your rhinestones, is palm olive green dishwashing liquid. The best. It totally just, I mean, it sparkles in a second. So, but you just have to make sure you dry everything and, because you don't want to spend all that money and then ruin the piece yourself.
Right.
But then again, like I said, there's some pieces you're like, I have to clean this, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes when you'll buy like bulk jewelry lots or even individual pieces, sometimes they'll have a smell. Like maybe the person
Absolutely.
smoked, maybe the person smoked or maybe they had their perfume all over it and now it smells horrible because that perfume is 50 years old. And so sometimes because I've had that happen a few times, well more than a few times where the pieces themselves have like a certain scent to
Yeah,
it.
I've done that and I'll keep them outside for a while and see if
Oh,
the
okay.
air will kind of get rid of it. Yeah, yeah, that's sad when you do get that. And that's really sad that it sticks to metal and stone.
Yes. Yes. Yes, and you
So,
wouldn't think that it would, right? Like, you wouldn't
I would
think.
think that would just be, but I think the wrapping too that it comes in, because everything will smell, the box, the whatever. But
Mhm.
luckily, you don't come across that too much,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever sold, because I know you said you like to sell in person, but have you ever sold live, like, online? Because I like to do live shows. Have you ever tried that?
No, this is probably like one of my first live shows. Well, this isn't even live, but even my son, who is a movie maker, he'll say, Mom, do this little thing cameo. And I'm like, I can't, you know? So, no, I like live in person, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose I could, but
Yeah, yeah, I enjoy it. And the thing is when you're doing a live like live stream or a live video,
you do it on
um,
Poshmark.
I do it on Poshmark,
Yeah,
I do it on
I'd say so.
Whatnot, and a newer site called District. But the thing I like is that people can see the piece, like
Right.
you're holding it up and you can turn it around and they can see it right then and there and they can ask you questions right then and there. So it's really interactive. How do you handle that on Etsy? Like when people reach out and they have a question about something, do you just send additional photos
Well, a
or
lot of times people want to see it on a person. Like
yes,
they want
yes,
to see
that's
it
true.
on. So then I'll enlist my lovely assistants to put it on, and I take pictures or that short little video, and it
Mhm.
helps a lot. And like I said, I do a lot of photo shoots now, and so a lot of the jewelry I use so far hasn't been up on the website, but people love to see what it looks like, on someone. So yeah.
All right, and then how often are you, listing on Etsy? Like, do you have a schedule of when you put new items, on
I have
your
a million to
site?
get up. I really do. Um, I've just been very busy. And so right now on Etsy, I probably only have around 90 up. I usually have over 200 at a time. So I have been on a buying spree and I have a lot that I need to kind of just go through. But I have a lot that you saw at the show that I need
Mhm.
pictures of. So it's happening soon.
Trust me, I know how that is.
Wants anything specific, they can ask because then I can just take those pictures and send them off.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing live shows because I don't have to do that.
Right.
I just get my 50 or 100 pieces that I'm gonna show in the show, and I
That's
just show
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
I just show them.
Maybe I'll get
So,
brave.
well, Debbie, if you ever wanna do a live show, you let me know because I would love to help you because you have such amazing pieces that I think
Thank you.
need to be seen.
Okay, thank
Because, yes, and I'm going to make sure I link her Etsy store
you.
in the show notes of this video because I want people to see the beautiful pieces that you have.
Well, thank you.
Of course, of course. So, well, before I let you go and before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share about your jewelry selling journey or what you've learned or any last tips or encouragement, anything?
I just follow your passion, your aesthetic, because it's better when you can stand behind your jewelry like, oh my goodness, this is fabulous, this is this and that. So if it's something you love, you're going to be more passionate about it. Just don't go buy anything because whatever. Just if you love it, the people are going to love it. You know what I mean? So,
Yes, yes. And don't you notice too that like sometimes you just have a gut feeling about a piece and you're
oh,
like, I have to
absolutely.
have it.
Yes,
You're like,
exactly. Like your heartbeat starts going like, oh my God, you know?
yes, yes, because that happens to me a lot. I'll see something and I'm like, I don't even know who's gonna buy this, but I know somebody will. Or I
Right.
just feel like I need to have it. I just need to have it.
Well, the good thing about vintage is it only will be older and more valuable. So
Mhm.
even if you don't come across that person like right away, they're going to be there. And then they're going to be so like, oh my God, I've been looking for this forever. So yeah, I would say follow your gut and get the things you like.
I agree. I agree. Now, the other thing, really quick, I noticed too is your packaging. Well, from what I saw at the vintage show, you just had really nice displays, and everything was so like beautifully organized, and you had it just displayed in a way that just made it very easy to shop and very eye catching, and it attracted a lot of attention. How did you figure all that out?
Just years of like doing shows, and the same with my packaging when I mail.
Hmm.
Everything is, perfectly wrapped in boxes and just over wrapped. So I want to make sure it gets there safely, and it's beautiful. Like I get so many compliments. They're like, "Oh, it looks like a birthday gift," or "It looks like this," and they just, like I said, once you get clients that buy from you, they'll know, okay, I'm good with her or him. So yeah, I don't know. You just mainly for that show, I wanted to try and condense things into not having to unload a lot. So I already had the displays ready. And so all I had to do was lay them out. So yeah, so it's thinking about what you have and how you want to display it. And to where it's people aren't just, because sometimes you go and it's all just junky all over the place, which that's fun too, digging through stuff. We love that. And
Yes.
then, but I don't know, I just like it to be neatly laid out, and I want it to be displayed like it should be. It's beautiful, and it deserves to look beautiful. So
Yes, well, you definitely have a knack for that. It's almost like, you know how some people just have that interior design kind of eye, and I think you have that. You have an eye for making things pretty and shoppable, but also very inviting, very attractive, like I said. So, and I think that takes time to learn too. I'm still trying to learn that when it comes to my own, displays and setups and trying to make it so it's an experience.
right,
It's not like just take one off the rack and then that's it. Like I really
Right.
want it to be like you're looking at eye candy.
Right. Well, you want it to like pop.
Yes, yes, and invoke a feeling in
That's
some
right.
cases too, where someone sees it and they're like, "Oh my, this is what I've been looking for all my life."
Right.
So, all right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Debbie. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so glad that we connected and we got in touch, and that you were available to do this quick interview. And I hope I see you again at another show
So,
because,
and if you get a shop, let me know because I would love to.
well, I would love that, but I don't know if I can if I
I
can do it now. But I would love to, like even if I could even partner with somebody, because I absolutely would love to do that. Like I really enjoyed the antique mall thing. But the thing was, like you said, there's a lot of rules and there's a lot of things that I didn't like about it. So I would need to have a little bit more control than what I had
right.
there.
I just wish they had like actual real vintage or antique shows. That
Yeah.
I know they have one for real gold and high end estate once a year in Vegas, but like just the normal ones, like you see in California, where everyone's
Yeah.
got all the vintage clothing out, their vintage purses, you know,
Mhm.
and all the
Yeah.
vintage jewelry, because that would make it so easy for us because we'd be like, watch my booth. I'm going over there. I'm going shopping.
Oh, as a
But
matter of fact, are you going to the antique jewelry and watch show in May?
I haven't been to that, but they don't do costume there, right? That's all real.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, they do have some costume there. There's two shows. The one in Vegas is trade only, but they also
Right.
have a bigger one in Miami, and that one
Okay.
is everything and anything vintage and antique.
I
So it's
know.
not just jewelry, it's furniture and stuff like that.
Yep. I know.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'll be at the one here in Vegas, and so I was gonna say, if you're gonna be there, I would love to say hi.
okay. Well, thank you. Well,
Yes.
give me a shout out when you know when it
Yes, I
is.
absolutely will. I absolutely will. But, the only thing though is I know you because it doesn't cost anything to
Mhm.
register, you just have to show your credentials and that's it.
Right.
So and I think it's at the Wynn. There's like 3 or 4 jewelry shows kinda back to back all at the same time, and I
Right.
guess they do that, to make it easier for people. But yeah, I'm really excited. I went for the first time last year, so this will be my 2nd year going.
So, do you actively sell there, or do people
No.
know?
No, I
So,
don't sell. I go as I guess like a buyer.
oh,
So
very good.
so basically it's all these vendors come in and they have astounding jewelry pieces. I mean,
Right.
and it's tens of thousands of dollars, these rare pieces. So I go mostly for education. I don't really shop, unfortunately. But
Right.
last year I went and I just learned so much and I got to see pieces, like they had last year Elizabeth Taylor's
Wow.
jewelry. I mean, it was breathtaking. And
Right.
they had it on display.
With
I mean,
Taylor,
someone
like from Avon,
yeah,
because
they had some pieces that were from her personal collection. So one
wow.
was like this
Oh,
emerald necklace stuff, um, and you could buy it, but it was in the
yeah.
hundreds of thousands, I think, but still just to see it, just to go there and
Right.
see it was amazing for me, so yeah, I try to go to any kind of jewelry show here in Vegas. I try to figure out a way
Right.
to get there because we don't have too many here.
No, you would think, hopefully, we'll get more. Maybe we can put something together,
I'd
you
love
know,
to. I'd
because
love
I'm
to.
sure there's other like minded people that love vintage too that could, also.
Oh
Here,
yeah. Yeah,
here
as a matter
comes
of fact, I know quite a few people who
yeah,
would love to.
yeah.
So, all right, Debbie. Well, like I said, I will have links to your shop in the show notes. And I think that's it.
All right.
So,
I appreciate it. Thank you so
yes,
much.
thank you so much. It was so great meeting you and chatting with you.
All right. Thank you, Desiree.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right. Bye.
Bye.